Morning, my fellow crafters. Well, afternoon. Whatever. Welcome to Crafting Unedited. My name is Sierra, editor, creator, and designer of all things craftily and crafting unedited. And today I am here to show you how to Mod Podge a piece of fabric onto a glass block to create something really fun and cool. So first thing you're going to want are a couple of supplies, and those are a glass block of your choosing. The size doesn't really matter, it's totally up to you. I have both the 6x6 roughly and I think 7 or an 8x8. I'm not sure, I know that one is bigger than the other. These are the ones that I'm creating today are going to be used for my children to collect bottle caps into, and each bottle cap will equal 25 cents when it is full. They have to fill it to get the money. See how that works. And it'll be for what I'm calling a fun fund. So today I am going to walk through the first steps on my son's and go through the second steps on my daughter's because I have already Mod Podged hers and I do not need to worry about it drying. So this is what hers looks like. I found this cute princess castle. It did have a unicorn in it, but there wasn't enough space for it. Fabric, and that's on the back side. So we'll set this to the side for now. But what I have for my son is I actually just ironed on some Harry Potter glasses onto a white piece of fabric. And what I did to make sure that I have enough to go all the way around and so that it's not wonky and crooked is I took this block and I took a fabric marker and I just drew a line around where I want to cut. And now we are going to cut it. Taking care to not go too far into the line. But you also don't want the line to show too much. I am the type of person that even if you give me a straight line to cut, I can't cut in a straight line to save my life, and that, my friends, is why I own a Cricut. Let's see if I do this on here, if it will not be as terrible. So, some of the tools that you'll need, I totally just realized that I skipped over that, is a design on a piece of fabric, or, you know, you can create your own if you have a Cricut and some iron-on, some HTV, and you'll want some Mod Podge. It is Mod Podge, not Mod Podge. Lots of people go by it, and this is just the regular Mod Podge. Nothing fancy there. And you will want a sponge brush, which I thought that I had right there, but I do not. Hold on one second. Let me go digging. Sponge brush or paintbrush. Fabric with design, glass block, Mod Podge, and sponge brush. You can use a paintbrush too. I just prefer the sponge brush. Let's get this cut out. And it doesn't matter if it's perfectly straight lines or not, because at the end, any excess you are going to sand off the edges. And when you sand off the edges, you don't need any super crazy sandpaper. You can actually just use a nail file if that's all you have. No big deal. Don't need to go make a separate trip for some sandpaper. Alright, so we'll get this out of the way just for in the meantime. We'll put it right here. Alright, so I have got my piece of fabric that I want to put on there. And first you're going to want to kind of make sure there's no debris on the block. And what I like to do first is go over it with a layer of Mod Podge. Right, so we'll just dip the brush in there, even though I grabbed the bigger one. No biggie, it fits. It's kind of like UPS. If it fits, it USPS. If it fits, it ships in the flat rate boxes. No, I'm not advertising. Alright, so you're just going to put like a little base layer on there. It does not need to be super thick at this point. This is just so that you can get your material to stick on there and not slide around when you're doing this next part. Okay, so we're just going to set that off to the side right there. And ooh, good catch, huh? We'll set that off to the side over here. Not too worried about getting it on my hands because that is definitely going to happen in the next steps. So you'll want to line it up. Get it on there as best as you can. Don't stress too much about the lines because you can slide it around and kind of eyeball it. Make sure it's straight. Though it's Harry Potter's glasses, so it does not need to be perfectly straight because his glasses are not perfectly straight. So there you go. You can kind of see there. And then I like to flatten it out, make sure there's no air bubbles in there. Alright. And then we take our sponge brush again. And this is where you want to get it on there nice and thick. So I just douse it in the Mod Podge. Getting around the edges, flattening the edges around. Whoop. Being careful not to drip too much. If you drip a little bit, that's not a big deal. You can just take it off later with some sandpaper or nail file, or you can even just use some rubbing alcohol. Good tip while I'm doing this is these blocks typically come with a label on them, as does most glassware. An easy, super, super easy way of getting that label off and not having a bunch of gross residue sitting on your glass is rubbing alcohol. Windex works wonders as well, but rubbing alcohol will get all of that excess paper and glue and sticky stuff off. And all you do is just pour a little bit on there and start scraping away or scrubbing away with a scrubber. I use the Cricut scraper for majority of all of it. And you just scrape it off and it comes off pretty easily. You don't really have to put too much work into it. Alright, so I've got a good coat on this. I'm going to go around the edges just a little bit more, and I can see a couple of places where I will have to sand it down later. So you want to make sure you get a nice even layer there where it's nice and doused but not overly doused. Let's put this over here. Oh, there's my sponge brush. I'll wash that later. And Mod Podge is just like Elmer's glue. Once it dries, you can rub it off. So once it dries, it wasn't dry all the way, so it's not going to rub off. Alright, so the next steps, I'm going to set this one off to the side right after I show you what it looks like. So you can't see the Mod Podge on the other side at all. But on this side, you can kind of see where I got a nice thick coating on there. See that shiny? That's not the glass, that is Mod Podge. Alright, so we're going to set this off to the side over here. And I'm going to show you my daughter's. So I don't really need to do a lot of filing on hers at all, and it's actually not dry enough for me to file quite yet. But this is what hers looks like. And this is her decal that I'm going to put on the front of it. It says Alana's Fun Fund, and each cap equals 25 cents. So what you're going to do for this step But you're going to get paper towel, more stuff that you need. I will make sure to put everything that you need in the description on here so that you don't have to worry about it. I'm trying to get through it halfway through the video. So you're just going to take just a tiny bit of rubbing alcohol and just clean off the front. So I got this decal, I made it, and I cut it with my Cricut maker. You can put any stickers on the front of these and it will stick. You do not have to have a Cricut maker for this project or a Cricut Air or any cutting machine. You can put whatever you want on the front side of this. I just like using my Cricut for fun things like this. And then what I'm going to do is take the extra rubbing alcohol and remove the Mod Podge off of my hand because it's not dry enough for me to just rub it. Okay, throw that away and finish getting this off of my hand. It's kind of satisfying if you let it dry enough and it peels off. If you never did arts and crafts in school, I'm sorry. Alright, so I've got my decal and it's actually still on the transfer paper, so I'm going to remove that really quickly. Maybe really quick. Oh, there it is. Good. There we go. Beautiful. Alright, so now it is on the transfer paper and I'm just going to align it right on the front here. And I use, again, scraping tool. You can use, if you don't have a Cricut, that's fine. Use a credit card, same concept. You just, and if you're using a sticker, you don't need to do this. But you can absolutely do it if you want. That way it gets a good stick, you know, because this is for a kiddo. You know, they can be quite destructive. This one specifically is for a 4-year-old tornado. She is wild, but I just like to do this to make sure that that vinyl gets a really good seal on there. And then you just peel off the transfer paper. And that is it. You are done. This is what the finished project looks like. And then they can put their bottle caps in it. And every time they fill it up, we count out the bottle caps and each one equals a quarter. It's a great way to get them to save without them actually having money on hand, because if they have the actual money on hand, they're going to want to spend it. However, once they see how many bottle caps this equals to, they get really, really excited. So, well, this was a fun project and I cannot wait for the Harry Potter one to come out. Granted, I love unicorns and castles, but I love Harry Potter as well. So I'm pretty excited to see how that one turns out. I will post a picture up on my Facebook page later on Craftily if you want to follow me. So I hope you enjoyed this craft. And I hope that you make some of these because your kiddos will love them. And it doesn't have to be for the kids. It can be for you. It can be for a vacation fund, honeymoon fund, whatever you want. Possibilities are endless if you have an imagination. Alright, so if you don't mind, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel down there, that little button, and it'll just remind you when I'm on, or if I've posted something new. The bell next to it actually alerts you if I have posted something new, so that's a pretty cool feature as well. So until next time, have a fantastic one, and we'll see you soon. Bye!